everybody, my name is Sesheta Jamdagni and today we'll be talking about Kaveri, which is the new book published by NCERT for grade 9. So Kaveri, this is the new English book, English literature book, which is very good in my terms. I am really thankful to the NCERT for bringing a change to our syllabus and adding this book. So there are a lot of different stories and poems in this book along with grammar topics. So what I really liked about this book is that in every story, in every poem, there are specific questions. They're interactive questions, not just simple questions like what do you think, what was the reason for this and that, not like this, but actually interactive, fun questions. So today I'll be reading for you the first chapter of the book Kaveri. And so let me just tell you first about Kaveri. So Kaveri actually means the one who brings abundance, and it is a river flowing in South India. So let's start with reading the first chapter. So the title of the story is How I Taught My Grandmother to Read. And this story, it is written by Sudha Murthy. So this is a wonderful story which is all about the motivation and the determination a person has to achieve any goal. So this story, its central idea is that there is an old lady. She and her granddaughter, they both are very close. So the grandmother, she is illiterate, whereas her granddaughter, she loves to read stories for her grandmother. So one day when the granddaughter is not available, so the grandmother becomes very disheartened that she is not able to read her favorite stories. So from that day onwards, there is a new sense of motivation in her that no, I will read. It's a different story that when it was the correct age of mine to learn how to read and write, she had some difficulties, some challenges, but now when I have time, when I can do things, so why not take the moment and then live to its fullest. So that is why the grandmother, she is motivated by her granddaughter, and actually what it matters is that other people will come and go. They might help you and they might not, but what matters is your own willpower. So the grandmother had the willpower and she had the determination, and she was able to reach her goal. So that was the central idea. And now let's move on to reading the story. So let's begin. When I was a girl about 12, I used to stay in a village in North Karnataka with my grandparents. Those days, the transport system was not very good. So we used to get the morning paper only in the afternoon. The weekly magazine used to come one day late. All of us would wait eagerly for the bus, which used to come with the papers, weekly magazine, and the post. So this story, this is in first person perspective by Sudha Murthy, and she is talking about her childhood when she was 12 years old and when she used to live with her grandparents in Karnataka. So at that time, Triveni was a very popular writer in the Kannada language. She was a wonderful writer. Her style was easy to read and very convincing. Her stories usually dealt with the complex psychological problems in the lives of ordinary people and were always interesting. Unfortunately for Kannada literature, she died very young. Even now, after 40 years, people continue to appreciate her novels. So, here, Triveni, a very popular Kannada writer, has been mentioned here. And it is said that although she died at a very young age, but her unique style of writing made everyone remember her forever. So one of her novels called Kashi Yatre was appearing as a serial in the Kannada weekly Karamveera then. Karamveera is the name of a magazine. Like earlier it is mentioned, the weekly magazine. So Karamveera is one of them. It is the story of an old lady and her ardent desire to go to Kashi or Varanasi. Most Hindus believe that going to Kashi and worshipping Lord Vishveshwara is the ultimate punya. This old lady also believed in this, and her struggle to go there was described in that novel. In the story, there was also a young orphan girl who falls in love, but there was no money for the wedding. In the end, the old lady gives away all her savings without going to Kashi. She says, the happiness of this orphan girl is more important than worshipping Lord Vishveshwara at Kashi. My grandmother, Krishtaka, never went to school and she could not read. Every Wednesday, the magazine would come and I would read the next episode of the story to her. During that time, she would forget all her work and listen with the greatest concentration. Later, she would repeat the entire text by heart. My grandmother too never went to Kashi, and she identified herself with the novel's protagonist. So more than anybody else, she was the one most interested in knowing what happened next in the story and used to insist that I read the serial out to her. So here, the grandmother, Kishtaka, is able to symbolize herself with the novel's protagonist, the old lady who had a very keen desire to go to Kashi. So the grandmother had also not gone to Kashi, and now was the protagonist able to go. So that is why the grandmother was able to, connect with her, and then due to this connectedness, she was having a more keen interest in knowing what would happen next in the story. So her granddaughter used to read out the story to her on every Wednesday. After hearing what happened next in Kashi Yatre, she would join her friends at the temple courtyard where we children would also gather to play hide and seek. She would discuss the latest episode with her friends. At that time, I never understood why there was so much debate about the story. Once, I went for a wedding with my cousins to the neighboring village. In those days, a wedding was a great event. We children enjoyed ourselves thoroughly. We would eat and play endlessly, savoring the freedom because all the elders were busy. I went for a couple of days but ended up staying there for a week. So now comes the plot, the plot twist. So the protagonist, the narrator, she had gone to the neighboring village for a wedding. So her plan was that after a few days she would come back to her grandmother, but she ended up staying there for the week. So we can guess that means that the grandmother was all alone at home, and that means that there was nobody to read out the next episode of Kashi Yatre. When I came back to my village, I saw my grandmother in tears. I was surprised, for I had never seen her cry even in the most difficult situation. What happened? I was worried. Avva, is everything alright? Are you okay? I used to call her Avva, which means mother in the Kannada spoken in North Karnataka. She nodded, but I did not reply. I did not understand and forgot about it. In the night after dinner, we were sleeping in the open terrace of our house. It was a summer night and there was a full moon. Avva came and sat next to me. Her affectionate hands touched my forehead. I realized she wanted to speak. I asked her, "What's the matter?" When I was a young girl, I lost my mother. There was nobody to look after and guide me. My father was a busy man and got married again. In those days, people never considered education essential for girls, so I never went to school. I got married very young and had children. I became very busy. Later, I had grandchildren and always felt so much happiness in cooking and feeding all of you. At times, I used to regret not going to school, so I made sure that my children and grandchildren studied well. So here, the grandmother is telling about what was the reason that she was not able to learn how to read and write. So that reason was that when she was very young, her mother had passed away, and then her father, he was a busy man, and then he remarried. So there was no parental figure who had a very important important effect in her life who would guide her. So then later she was not encouraged to go to school and then have education, mostly because of the time the period of that time that people did not consider education for girls very important. So due to that, nobody encouraged her, and then she had to get married at a young age. And when she was married, she had children, and later she had grandchildren. So she was busy all the time. So at some times she would regret that why didn't I go to school? I should have learned how to how to get to know how do I read and how do I write, how to become literate. So she did have that regret. I could not understand why my 62-year-old grandmother was telling me, a 12-year-old, the story of her life in the middle of the night. But I knew I loved her immensely and there had to be some reason why she was talking to me. I looked at her face. It was unhappy and her eyes were filled with tears. She was a good-looking lady who was usually always smiling. Even today, I cannot forget the worried expression on her face. I leaned forward and held her hand. Avva, don't cry. What's the matter? Can I help you in any way? Yes, I need your help. You know, when you were away, Karamveera came as usual. I opened the magazine. I saw the picture that accompanies the story of Kashi Yatre and I could not understand anything that was written. Many times I rubbed my hands over the page wishing they would understand what were written. But I knew it was not possible. If only I was educated enough, I waited eagerly for you to return. I felt you would come early and read for me. I even thought of going to the village and asking you to read for me. I could have asked somebody in this village, but I was too embarrassed to do so. I felt very dependent and helpless. We are well off, but what is the use of money when I cannot be independent? This is a very important line, a significant line, that we are well off, but what is the use of money when I cannot be independent? So this shows that the grandmother really wanted to be educated and she wanted that she should not be dependent on somebody. She wanted that I myself be capable enough to read and enjoy the things I like. She really loved listening to Kashi Yatre, but she wanted that instead of listening, she would read it herself. I did not know what to answer. Avva continued. I have decided I want to learn the Kannada alphabet from tomorrow onwards. I will work very hard. I will keep Saraswati Puja Day during the Shera as the deadline. That day, I would be able to read a novel on my own. I want to be independent. I saw the determination on her face, yet I laughed at her. Avva, at this age of 62, you want to learn the alphabet. Your hair is grey, your hands are wrinkled, you wear spectacles and you work so much in the kitchen. Childishly, I made fun of the old lady, but she just smiled. So the narrator, she is just a 12-year-old girl. So she was not able to understand what her grandmother is trying to say. She thought that what is she saying? That how can she learn how to read and write at such an old age? But the grandmother, she was determined. So that's the thing. If you are motivated, if you are determined, you can do anything in your life. For a good cause, if you are determined, you can overcome any obstacle. I will work harder than anybody, but I will do it. For learning, there is no age bar. This is a very wonderful line said by the grandmother. The next day onwards, I started my tuition. Avva was a wonderful student. The amount of homework she did was amazing. She would read, repeat, write and recite. I was her only teacher and she was my first student. Little did I know. Then one day I would become a teacher in computer science and teach hundreds of students. So this was how the sense of teaching was started. It first emerged in the author Sudhamurthy, and she says that teaching my grandmother, that was how it all started. And now she is a computer science teacher. So the Sesheta festival came as usual. Secretly, I bought Kashi Yatre, which had been published as a novel by that time. My grandmother called me to the puja place and made me sit down on a stool. She gave me a gift of frock material. Then she did something unusual. She bent down and touched my feet. Here, the narrator wanted to surprise her grandmother by gifting her the novel of Kashi Yatre, but she was surprised. I was surprised and taken aback. Elders never touch the feet of youngsters. We have always touched the feet of God, elders and teachers. We consider that as a mark of respect. It is a great tradition, But today, the reverse had happened. It was not correct. She said, I am touching the feet of a teacher, not my granddaughter. A teacher who taught me so well, with so much of affection that I can read a novel, any novel, confidently in such a short period. Now I am independent. It is my duty to respect a teacher. Is it not written in our scriptures that a teacher should be respected irrespective of gender and age? I did return her namaskar to her by touching her feet and gave my gift to my first student. She opened it and read immediately the title Kashi Yatre by Triveni and the publisher's name. I knew then that my student had passed with flying colors. So this was the story How I Taught My Grandmother to Read by Sudha Murthy, which is all about finding the courage within, finding the determination, the dedication. It is very simple. If you want to crack any goal, if you want to reach a certain level in life, you must have discipline and you must have dedication. So these two are the most important things in life, and once you have them, there's nobody who can stop you in this world. So that was the first chapter of the book Kaveri. So thank you to the NCERT for publishing this wonderful book with wonderful stories and poems, and I hope you really liked the reading of the story that I did. So don't forget to like my channel, like my video, subscribe my channel, and don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much. Bye bye.